All right, happy Thursday. So I wanted to talk tonight about some of the basics. I literally want to go to the Four Noble Truths, which people learn them in grade school. Right? The Four Noble Truths of Buddhism. It's the Buddha's first teaching. And then I want to talk a little bit about sort of a Zen take on them. Because as you may know, Zen Buddhism emerges later in Buddhist history, really in China, called Chan Buddhism, probably emerging around 600. So the first noble truth is the reality of dukkha, where all life is suffering, is how some people say it. And it's tricky because people say it and it sounds pretty fatalistic, right? Or nihilistic. Like, what's the point? All life is suffering, right? I think a different way to think about it might be that life has difficulties in it, right? Or nothing is perfect, or things will happen which you don't prefer, which sort of takes us to the second noble truth, which is that the cause of suffering is desires. And that, so out of the gate, first two noble truths, it gets really confusing and tricky. Because so it's not okay to want stuff? I wanted to be a Zen teacher, and then I went through a lot of things to, and sacrificed certain things and achieved that goal. And now I am one. So is that wrong to I'm married, I wanted to marry my wife, I've wanted certain jobs or pets, or sometimes I've gotten what I wanted, sometimes I didn't get what I want. So what are we talking about? Desires cause suffering. So truth one, dukkha. Truth two, the cause of suffering is desires, right? Third one, the way you end suffering is to end desires. And the fourth one is to end desires, you follow the eightfold path. And then there's another list. And so already you're just like what is going on here? And people learn these, they memorize them, but they don't really ever kind of get under the hood and say, okay, so what is suffering, right? Suffering is the experience of not wanting what you have, right? Or having what you don't want. It's desiring things to be different than they are. And of course we have optional suffering and we have non-optional suffering, right? Optional suffering is I'll give an example. I took my wife to the beach many years ago in order to propose to her. And she suspected that that's what was happening, but she had a little monologue in her mind, which she said, I have to not think that, because if he just takes me to the beach, I'm gonna be like, that SOB taking me to the beach, right? Which should be, right? So that'd be not getting what you wanted, right? And so if you're attached to a particular outcome, then even getting to go to the beach could cause suffering, right? So she was using a mental strategy. She told me this later. All worked out, because in fact I did propose, but that happens too, right? Sometimes things work out, and then it's oh, everything's gonna be. Right? So I want to make a couple of leaps here. So dukkha is not just getting cancer or having your cat die. It's also taxes and dishes and waking up when you're tired and raking the leaves. It's that life is absolutely filled with all sorts of things, all sorts of activities, and how we relate to those activities determines our experience day in and day out. But then as Buddhism moves through China, we end up with something called Mahayana Buddhism, which is the type of Buddhism that emphasizes service, right? Selfless service. That the point is not just for me to become enlightened, right? And then I can be happy, or not happy, but I can be at peace. It's that I want all beings to be well. In a little bit we're going to chant the four vows of the Bodhisattva, right? Well, a Bodhisattva is a being that delays entering into nirvana until everyone is enlightened. So if we go back to the first noble truth, all life contains suffering, that's the reason why we want to offer enlightenment to all beings. Does that make sense? If everyone has this problem, we want to help. And the second thing that Zen emphasizes is the notion that form is emptiness and emptiness is form, right? So what that means is that the first noble truth is also empty. Right? Because nothing is permanent, right? Because of impermanence, suffering ends. And so you say, okay, in my life there's suffering, but wait, that suffering is impermanent because nothing is fixed. Everything is empty, including the Four Noble Truths. But they also have a form, right? Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. I have a form. It used to have hair, now it doesn't, right? It's empty. Empty of any fixed thing, with a present form in the present moment. So what, I know this can start to sound like Zen cliche soup, and I'm not trying to just throw a bunch of catchphrases at you, but I wanted to put a bunch of things on the table for a reason. So wanting things to be different than they are is a form of stress and suffering. Accepting things as they are is a form of liberation. Not because, if I break a dish, I don't look down at the broken pieces and go, well, I accept it and just leave it on the floor, right? I can still clean it up. But my being is not in a state of resistance to the broken dish. I can't believe I did that. What the fuck is wrong, son? A lot of folks had dads who struggle with anger, right? I wouldn't know anything about that. My Dharma name is just no conflict. So, when we find that we are distressed, which we will, the source of that distress is a desire, and that desire is ultimately empty. Now, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. So it's okay to have a goal, and it's okay to move toward a goal, and it's okay to achieve a goal, and it's okay to fail at a goal. And none of that is fixed, and all of it is impermanent. So we'll move toward things, we'll achieve things, things will fall away. Things will arise, things will collapse. This is the nature of the world. So what are we in the business of, right? Because, the magazine version is, we're in the business of mindfulness. Being present, being relaxed, being at peace, right? Having fancy robes, looking like a Buddha. But I don't think that's it. I think that's the paintbrush, right? It's not the painting. Right? Mindfulness is just the tool to work directly with what is. Including the stuff that causes suffering. So when we say that we end desires, right? What does that mean? It means we stop wanting things and start taking personal responsibility for our reality. Right? Instead of saying, I wish it wasn't that way, we say, well, it is that way, now what? And then allow the now what to come up so that we can take appropriate action in the moment. Not fighting with what is. And part of what is that we can look, humans are self-aware, so we can look down the road and see problems on the way and avoid them. that's the moment too. Mindfulness is just the ability to see what your mind is doing. But wisdom is, I see that my mind is in a stance of resistance to almost everything, almost all of the time. I'm trying to adjust everything to be just the way I want it. And I don't have to do that. It's like that old rock song, right? Hold on loosely, but don't let go, right? There's all sorts of analogies for this. They say the middle path, the middle way, the Tao. I used to study martial arts, and one of the things about my martial arts teacher is that he studied both Chinese and Japanese martial arts, and Japanese martial arts tend to be very rigid and hard, right? And if someone goes to hit you, you smash their hand out of the way in a way that might break it. And Chinese martial arts tend to be very fluid and like Tai Chi and avoiding things. And what was funny is if you came at him hard, he would get all flowy. And then if you came at him flowy, he would get all hard. It was well, wait. So what am I doing? Right? How do I approach this? It's well, exactly. Right? Conform to the needs of the now. If you want to eliminate suffering, it isn't that I become this desireless thing who doesn't want anything. It's that my relationship with reality is completely different. It's a different relationship. It's the middle path. They sometimes call this the way of reality. So when I look at reality with my eyes wide open and I see what's there without attachment. And attachment really means a filter, right? That causes me to see what I want to see and see myself the way I want to be seen. So then your wife says to you, I don't appreciate it when you do blah, blah, blah. And then you go, I don't do that. Now I'm defensive, right? What is that? Well, I have a filter, right? I have a desire, I have a filter of how I want to be seen, how I see myself. What you said doesn't match, so I reject it. That's attachment. Or I could go, well, if I assume that my partner's not an idiot, right, and that they can see things, perhaps they are seeing something. They've said it out loud, so it's come into reality. So now I got to deal with it. Well, that looks really different than being you're wrong. But this isn't a balancing act. It's a whole different road, right? We're not trying to bring everyone to the table and say, okay, we're going to split the difference between all your views. What we're saying is we're going to look at reality without fear and think about all the ways in which we filter our lives and push things off the table and I'm not going to deal with that right now, but I'll deal with this. Or you have this big paper to write, but I'm going to vacuum the house, then I'll feel a sense of accomplishment, but I will have avoided the paper, right? Dodging the suffering. That's attachment. Write the paper. Do what you need to do. And then to do that, we follow the Eightfold Path. Well, what is that? You've probably heard them. Things like, right livelihood, right mindfulness, right speech, right action. It's basically living in a wholesome way. And we can feel it in our body when we are living in an unwholesome way. I used to, there's a period of my life where I had some health problems, and I was early in that time, I was really depressed about it. And I was about, say 27, 28. I remember shortly after that, I spent a whole summer pretty much just playing video games. And I noticed if I play video games for an hour, it's fine. If you play video games for 8 hours, you have a splitting headache. You feel terrible. You stand up and your whole body just is ugh. Your body will tell you. Why do I feel gross? Well, because you played video games for 8 hours. You didn't deal with what you needed to deal with. You know? And it's a funny, I'll say this and I'll stop, it's a funny dance, right? Because I can go over to someone and be like, don't do this thing, don't drink, don't smoke pot, don't do video games, don't spend too much time on social media, whatever, don't eat too much sugar. But that's just another fixed attachment point. Figure out what works well for me, allow everyone else to be where they are. If someone asks for help, help. If they reject your help, that's okay. It's not your life. Don't be attached. If their refusal to accept your help brings up feelings for you, feel your feelings. You see how it never ends? It's like, work with that. Well, what if this happens? Then work with that. But then this might happen. Okay, work with that. That's the stance that we're trying to cultivate in meditation. Is the stance of working directly with exactly what is, as it arises, moment by moment, in a way that is beneficial to all beings. Does that make sense? Any questions?
Do you offer help?
What do you mean? Do you does one offer help or do I offer help?
No. In general, if you see someone in pain, do you offer help?
Yeah.
You don't wait for them to ask.
Well, it depends. And I'm not trying to be evasive. So I think you could tell, right? Sometimes offering is of benefit, sometimes offering is not of benefit. But also you can offer and they can say no. Because So there's no fixed answer to that question, as there is no fixed answer to any of these questions, right? Because you don't know until it comes up. People have family members who they try to help for years and the family member won't accept the help. And it becomes toxic and impossible. And now it's dragging down the helper. So that's not a good scenario. Other times, people are surprised by the offer of assistance and they really benefit from it. But we offer, no matter what, we're offering it without ego, right? We're not offering help to be the helper. Look at me, I'm so helpful. You should feel honored to receive my assistance. Any other thoughts?